May 16th, 1944. The western slope of Monte Cassino, Italy. 11:47 a.m. The air tastes like copper and cordite. Lance Corporal James Mitchell of the Royal Army Medical Corps presses himself into a crater still warm from the German 88mm shell that carved it 20 minutes ago. Around him, the mountainside is a landscape of broken stone and broken men. The ancient monastery looms above through the smoke, or what's left of it after months of Allied bombing. Its shattered walls still sheltering the Wehrmacht machine gun nests that have turned this approach into an abattoir. Another burst rips overhead. MG-42. Mitchell knows the sound intimately now. 1-200 rounds per minute. The weapon the British infantry calls Hitler's zipper for the way it tears the air apart. He counts 3 seconds of fire. Traverse left to right. The German gunner is systematic, professional, sweeping the slope in predetermined arcs that leave nowhere safe. No gap long enough to move. Medic! The cry comes from 30 yards upslope. Private Thomas Hendricks, 2nd Battalion, Royal Sussex Regiment. Mitchell saw him go down during the last push, saw the round stitch across his legs, watched him tumble into the rocks. That was 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes of Hendricks lying exposed on open ground, bleeding into the volcanic soil while Mitchell calculated angles and timing, and concluded there was no way to reach him. Not alive. But Hendricks is still screaming. Mitchell's medical haversack digs into his spine. Field dressings, morphine syrettes, tourniquets, the tools that mean everything and nothing when you can't reach the wounded. He's 23 years old, trained at the Royal Herbert Hospital in Woolwich. And before this morning, he'd saved 14 men on this godforsaken mountain. He's lost count of how many he's watched die waiting for a chance that never came. The MG-42 speaks again. Stone fragments pepper Mitchell's helmet. Somewhere to his left, another man is calling for help. Lieutenant David Carson, company second in command. Caught in the wire, the Germans strung between the rocks. Mitchell can see him from here, tangled and torn, one arm hanging useless. Carson isn't screaming. Officers don't scream. But his face has that gray shade Mitchell has learned it means internal bleeding, means maybe an hour if he's lucky. The attack broke an hour ago. What was supposed to be a coordinated advance by the Sussex Regiment and the 1st Guards Brigade into the monastery defenses became a massacre in the first 90 seconds. German mortars had the range pre-registered. The MG-42s opened up from positions no one had spotted. Men fell like wheat before a scythe. The survivors went to ground in whatever cover they could find. And now they're scattered across 300 yards of mountainside, with no way forward and no way back. Mitchell counts them. Counts the wounded he can see, the ones crying out and the ones who've gone quiet. Hendricks upslope. Carson in the wire. Private Morrison with his chest torn open, somehow still breathing behind a boulder 40 feet away. Corporal Davies, both legs shattered, dragged himself into a shell hole near the twisted remains of a German half-track. And more. So many more. Some moving weakly, some not moving at all, but not yet dead. Mitchell can tell the difference, has learned to read that terrible stillness that means a man is hovering in the space between. 40 men, maybe more, scattered like dice across the killing ground, and every minute that passes means more of them slip away. The company commander is dead. Captain Reynolds took a mortar fragment to the throat in the opening barrage. The battalion is pinned down 200 yards behind Mitchell, unable to advance, unable to provide covering fire without exposing themselves to the same machine guns. The wounded are on their own, and Mitchell is the only medic in reach. He risks a glance over the crater rim. The German positions are clear now that he knows where to look. 3 MG-42 nests carved into the monastery's foundation walls, mutually supporting overlapping fields of fire. Perfect killing geometry. The gunners are good. Wehrmacht regulars, probably veterans of Russia or North Africa. They're not firing wildly. They're waiting, conserving ammunition, watching for movement. They know wounded men are the best bait. They know eventually someone will try to help. Mitchell's hands are shaking. Not from fear. He burned through fear somewhere around the third wounded man he couldn't reach. But from the simple, crushing mathematics of the situation. 40 men bleeding out. Maybe 3 hours of daylight left. No reinforcements coming. No artillery support available. The monastery is protected by orders from high command, some political calculation about historical sites that means nothing to the men dying on this slope. No smoke to cover an evacuation, no miracles left in his medical kit. Private Hendricks screams again, weaker this time. Mitchell closes his eyes, thinks about his training, the Geneva Convention, the red cross on his helmet that's supposed to protect him, that the Germans sometimes honor and sometimes use as an aiming point. He thinks about the white armband on his left sleeve, bright against his battle dress, marking him as non-combatant, marking him as the man who has to do something when everyone else has the luxury of staying down. The MG-42 fires a short burst. Suppression. Reminder. We're still here. We're still watching. Mitchell reaches into his haversack, past the medical supplies, to the bottom, where he keeps a white undershirt regulation issue. The one thing in his kit that has nothing to do with saving lives and everything to do with not dying. He pulls it out, looks at it. The fabric is clean, impossibly white against the gray volcanic dust coating everything else. He knows what he's about to do is insane. Knows it violates every rule of warfare, every principle of honest surrender. Knows if the Germans realize what he's doing, they'll cut him down without hesitation, and they'll be within their rights. But 40 men are dying, and Mitchell has run out of other options. Mitchell ties the white shirt to his medical stick, a meter-long wooden rod he uses to probe for mines and test unstable ground. His fingers work automatically, double-knotting the fabric, while his mind races through what comes next. There's no manual for this. No training scenario that covers waving surrender at an enemy you don't intend to surrender to. No protocol for lying to men who hold your life in their hands. He takes 3 deep breaths, forces his heart rate down. A medic learns to control panic. You can't work on a sucking chest wound with shaking hands. But this is different. This isn't medicine. This is theater. And if his performance isn't perfect, 40 men die. 41 counting himself. God forgive me, Mitchell whispers. Then he rises from the crater, white flag held high above his head. The MG-42 falls silent immediately. The absence of sound is more terrifying than the gunfire. Mitchell can feel the German gunners tracking him through their sights, fingers on triggers, weighing this moment. Is he genuine? Is this a trick? The seconds stretch like hours. His legs want to run, to drop, to do anything except stand exposed on this slope, with every German weapon pointed at his chest. He waves the flag slowly. left to right. The universal signal. His other hand, he raises palm out, empty, non-threatening. He makes sure the red cross on his helmet is visible. Makes sure they can see his medical haversack, the white armband, everything that marks him as what he is. Was what he's pretending to be. Nicht schießen, Mitchell shouts. His German is rudimentary, learned from a phrase book during the transport to Italy. Ich bin Sanitator, wounded men, Verwundete. Movement in the German positions. A figure rising, an officer, Mitchell thinks. Too far to see details, but the body language reads authority. The man calls something back, voice carrying across the killing ground. Mitchell doesn't catch the words, but he understands the tone. Questioning, suspicious, waiting. Mitchell points to Hendricks, to Carson in the wire, makes exaggerated gestures toward the scattered wounded. Nur Verwundete Bergen, he calls, just collecting wounded. 10 Minuten. 10 minutes. He holds up both hands, fingers spread. A time limit. A boundary for this impossible negotiation. The German officer says something to the machine gunners. Another eternal pause. Mitchell can see the MG-42 barrels tracking him, following his smallest movement. One nervous trigger pull, and this ends. One skeptical NCO deciding the risk isn't worth it. Then the officer raises his own hand. Palm out, stop, wait, and calls back. 10 Minuten, keine Waffen, no weapons. Mitchell's knees nearly buckle with relief. He nods vigorously. Keine Waffen, no weapons. Danke, thank you. He plants the white flag in a crack between rocks where it will stay visible, then turns and signals frantically downslope toward the British positions. The stretcher bearers have been watching, waiting. Now they come scrambling up. Corporal Peters and Private Walsh, both medical orderlies, and behind them, a dozen infantry volunteers who understand what's happening, who see the impossible window that's just opened. 10 minutes, Mitchell tells them as they reach his position. His voice is steady despite everything. Maybe less. The Germans think I'm surrendering the wounded for evacuation. They think we're done fighting here. Peters stares at him. Jesus Christ, Jamie. If they figure out, then we work fast. Mitchell is already moving toward Hendricks. Spread out. Closest casualties first. No weapons, no equipment except stretchers and medical kit. Nothing that makes them nervous. And for God's sake, move like you're beaten, defeated. Make them believe it. The team disperses. Mitchell reaches Hendricks and drops to his knees beside the private. Both legs mangled, one femoral artery torn. Mitchell gets a tourniquet on it in 15 seconds, his hands working with practiced efficiency while his eyes keep flickering to the German positions. The machine guns are still pointed at them, but not firing. The barrels track each medic, each stretcher bearer, but hold fire. The deception is holding, for now. Am I dying? Hendricks gasps. His face is chalk white, lips blue at the edges. Not today, Tommy. Mitchell jabs a morphine syringe into the private's thigh. Not on my watch. Walsh and another bearer arrive with a stretcher. They load Hendricks as gently as speed allows, then start back downslope. One saved. 39 to go. Mitchell runs to Carson. The lieutenant is semi-conscious, tangled in German barbed wire, blood soaking his uniform. Mitchell pulls wire cutters from his haversack, technically a weapon, but the Germans don't fire. He cuts Carson free, pressure dresses the worst bleeds, gets him onto the next stretcher. The lieutenant's eyes focus briefly. That's not a real surrender. Carson mumbles through the morphine haze. No, sir. Mitchell signals the bearers to move. It's not. Bloody brilliant, bloody suicidal. Yes, sir, both of those. Peters is working Morrison, the chest wound. Another team has reached Davies in his shell hole. All across the slope, medics and bearers are moving with desperate efficiency, racing the clock. 5 minutes gone. Mitchell can feel the weight of German eyes, German suspicion. How long before someone in those machine gun nests starts wondering why these defeated British are moving with such purpose? Why their medic waves them forward with such authority instead of the broken resignation of true surrender? A shout from the German lines. Mitchell's heart stops. He turns slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. The officer is calling down, pointing at something. One of the British infantry volunteers has his rifle slung across his back, forgot to leave it behind in the rush to help. Stupid, fatal. Waffen, the German officer shouts. Weapons. Mitchell waves frantically at the volunteer. Drop it. Drop the rifle now. The soldier understands immediately. The weapon clatters to the rocks. He raises both hands, backing away from it, making it clear, mistake, accident, no threat. Mitchell holds his breath. The MG-42s are traversing, zeroing in on the volunteer. This is the moment. This is where the deception dies. The German officer watches for 5 seconds that feel like 5 hours. Then he makes a sharp gesture. Continue, but carefully. A warning. One more mistake and they open fire. 8 minutes. Peters hisses as he passes Mitchell with another loaded stretcher. We're not going to make it. Mitchell runs to the next casualty. Private Fuller, stomach wound, probably mortal, but still breathing. Gets him stabilized enough to move. Another stretcher team. Another man saved. Maybe. The pace is frantic now. Stretchers moving up and down the slope in a continuous chain. The British bearers are exhausted, gasping in the thin mountain air. But nobody stops. Every man here understands the math. 40 wounded against 10 minutes. The only equation that matters. 9 minutes. Mitchell reaches Corporal Davies. Both legs destroyed, but the man is conscious, clear-eyed. Leave me, Davies says. Get the others. Shut up, Corporal. Mitchell is already working, splinting what can be splinted, dressing what can be dressed. You're going home to Brighton. No time. There's time. Mitchell signals a stretcher team. Lies to Davies the way he's lying to the Germans. Whatever it takes to keep men alive. 10 minutes. The white flag still stands where Mitchell planted it. A fragile promise in a landscape of broken promises. The German officer is checking his watch. Mitchell can see the gesture from here. Time's up. The deception has to end. They have to know something's wrong, have to see that these aren't defeated men, but determined ones, that this medic never meant to surrender at all. But the stretchers keep moving. The bearers keep climbing. And somehow, impossibly, the Germans keep holding fire. Maybe they see the red crosses. Maybe they're tired of killing. Maybe some Wehrmacht lieutenant on this godforsaken mountain has decided 40 wounded British aren't worth the bullets. Mitchell reaches the last man he can see. Private Kent, unconscious, head wound, barely alive. Gets him loaded. Signals the final stretcher team down. Counts quickly. 37, 38. Where are the other two? There. 50 yards to the right, half buried under a collapsed stone wall. Mitchell can see a boot, a hand, the edge of a battle-dressed tunic. 2 men, not 1. Pinned under rubble from a mortar strike, maybe already dead, but maybe not. He's learned not to assume. He's learned that men survive impossible things on this mountain. He runs. His legs are burning, lungs screaming for oxygen in the thin air. 11 minutes now, past the agreed time. The German officer is standing fully visible on the monastery wall, waving. "Get out! Time's up, this is over." Mitchell ignores him, keeps running, reaches the collapsed wall, and starts pulling stones away with his bare hands. "Medic!" Peters is shouting from downslope. "Jamie, leave them. We have to go." Mitchell doesn't answer, just digs. Stone after stone, hands bleeding now, fingernails cracking. The German officer is shouting something. The MG-42s are traversing again, tracking him. He can hear the mechanical sound of the guns swiveling on their mounts, that particular grinding noise that means gunners preparing to fire. His fingers find fabric, a shoulder. He pulls, leverages a larger stone aside, and suddenly he can see faces. Lance Corporal Matthews and Private Bellamy, both 2nd Sussex, both conscious and terrified. They've been lying here for over an hour, unable to move, unable to call out, listening to the battle rage around them while tons of rock pinned them in place. "Can you move?" Mitchell gasps. Matthews tries, winces, legs trapped, think it's broken. No time for proper treatment. Mitchell braces himself and heaves the remaining stone off Matthews's leg. The Lance Corporal screams. The leg is definitely broken, bone visible through torn flesh, but he's free. Bellamy has a crushed shoulder, but he can walk. Mitchell gets Matthew's arm around his neck, signals Bellamy to help support the wounded man's other side. "Move," Mitchell orders. "Now." They stumble forward, down the slope, toward the British lines. 12 minutes, 13. The German officer is gesturing emphatically now, and Mitchell can see NCOs positioning themselves behind the MG-42s. The gunners' hands are on the triggers. The decision has been made. Time to end this. "Schnell!" Mitchell shouts up at the Germans. "Fast! Letzte Verwundete!" Last wounded. He's still playing the role, still pretending this is an agreed evacuation, even though everyone knows now what it really was. What he did. 30 yards to safety. 25. Mitchell's legs are giving out. Matthews is dead weight against him, semi-conscious from pain. Bellamy is flagging. The stretcher bearers are at the British line now, frantically waving them on. Peters has a medical haversack ready, preparing for the moment they cross over. 20 yards. The MG-42s open fire. Not at Mitchell, at the ground in front of him. A warning burst that tears up the volcanic soil in a line 10 feet ahead. The message is clear. Far enough. You pushed your luck. Now it ends. Mitchell stops. So close. 15 yards from safety. From cover. From the British positions where men are screaming at him to run, to dive, to do anything except stand there like a target. But if he runs now, if the Germans think he's fleeing, they'll cut him down. They've given him 13 minutes when they promised 10. They've honored the Red Cross longer than they had to. But honor has limits, and Mitchell has reached them. He lowers Matthews to the ground as gently as speed allows. Bellamy drops beside him. Mitchell straightens, faces the German positions, and renders a salute. Crisp. Formal. The kind of salute one professional soldier gives another. Acknowledgement. Respect. Thank you for what you gave us, even though I lied to get it. For a long moment, nothing. Mitchell stands exposed, saluting machine guns that could end him in a heartbeat. Gambling one last time that the men behind those weapons understand what happened here. What it cost on both sides. What it means. The German officer returns the salute. Then he barks an order, and the MG-42s elevate their barrels, pointing skyward, a final gesture before the killing resumes. Mitchell doesn't wait for the moment to pass. He grabs Matthews again, Bellamy helps, and they cover the last 15 yards in a stumbling run that ends with all three of them tumbling into a British trench. Hands reach out to catch them. Voices shouting for stretchers, for dressings, for morphine. Peters is beside Mitchell immediately, checking him for wounds. "You insane bastard. You beautiful, insane bastard." Mitchell is shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up with him. His hands won't stop trembling. Peters wraps a blanket around his shoulders, but it doesn't help. He's not cold. He's in shock, delayed reaction. The body's way of saying, "You should be dead right now." Do you understand how close that was? "How many?" Mitchell manages to ask. His voice sounds distant to his own ears. 39 confirmed on stretchers, Peters reports. Matthews and Bellamy make 41. We got them all, Jamie, every single one. 41 lives, bought with a white flag and a lie. Mitchell thinks about the Geneva Convention, about military law, about the line he crossed up there on that slope. False surrender is a war crime. Using medical status as a deception violates every rule of honorable warfare. If the Germans had realized, if they'd reported it, Mitchell could be court-martialed, shot. But 41 men are alive who would be dead. The German machine guns resume firing, but it's desultory now, harassing fire. Nothing like the systematic killing from before. The British battalion is withdrawing, using the gathering dusk for cover. The attack on Monte Cassino has failed. Another failed attack in a campaign full of them. The monastery still stands. The German defenses still hold. In the grand strategic picture, nothing has changed, except 41 men who will see tomorrow. Lieutenant Carson finds Mitchell an hour later, leg in a splint, arm bandaged, somehow still functioning on morphine and willpower. "They're putting you in for a medal," Carson says. "Distinguished Conduct Medal, at least. Maybe Victoria Cross." Mitchell shakes his head. "Can't do that, sir. Would have to explain what I did, how I did it." Carson is quiet for a moment. Then, "You saved 41 lives. By lying to the enemy, by abusing protected status, by being braver than any man I've ever served with." Carson's voice is firm despite the drugs. "The men you saved won't forget. I won't forget. Write it up however you want in the official report. But what you did up there, that was the most extraordinary thing I've witnessed in this war." Mitchell doesn't respond. He's watching the mountain, watching the monastery that killed so many and will kill so many more before this campaign ends. Somewhere up there, a German lieutenant is probably filing his own report, probably questioning whether he was right to hold fire, whether he violated his orders by showing mercy to an enemy medic who might not have been surrendering at all. Two men on opposite sides of a war, both gambling that there's still room for humanity in this mechanized slaughter, both hoping they made the right choice. Private Hendricks survives his wounds and is evacuated to a hospital in Naples. Lieutenant Carson loses the arm but lives to return to England. Corporal Davies loses both legs but makes it home to Brighton. 38 of the 41 wounded men evacuated that day survived their injuries. The mathematics of mercy calculated in lives saved rather than ground gained. The official report lists the action as successful evacuation of wounded under temporary ceasefire. No mention of false surrender, No mention of deception. Just a British medic and German soldiers who, for 13 minutes on a blood-soaked mountainside, chose to honor the oldest law of war, that some men are worth saving, regardless of which flag they fight under. Lance Corporal James Mitchell receives the Distinguished Conduct Medal 3 months later. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and devotion to duty in the face of the enemy." It doesn't mention the white flag, doesn't mention the lie that saved 41 lives. Mitchell keeps the white shirt, blood-stained and torn, in his kit for the rest of the war, a reminder of the day he broke every rule, and somehow, impossibly, got away with it. A reminder that sometimes the choice between honor and survival isn't a choice at all. It's a medic standing on a killing ground, waving a white flag, buying minutes with his life. The Battle of Monte Cassino rages for 3 more months. The monastery finally falls in May 1944. Thousands die on both sides for a pile of rubble and a strategic position. But 41 men who should have died on May 16th live to see the victory. 41 men who owe their lives to a 23-year-old medic who understood that sometimes the greatest courage isn't fighting the enemy. Sometimes it's lying to them.